Well, hello everyone. This is Data Driven Formula One with Patrick, Henz, and Ganna Pogrebna. Hi,
Hello,
Patrick.
Ganna. Hello, all. And I'm here with my
Um.
Mate team.
Oh.
This means we're speaking about an Argentinian. By the way, don't be concerned. This is the typical Argentinian tea, so no other drugs for
Okay.
today.
Okay. I actually was really sort of surprised to see the word enigma. I would call him the governor for obvious reasons, but yeah, Carlos Reutemann, very cool guy. I mean, to be honest, I think he's very underappreciated in Formula One
Yep.
generally. And to be honest, I'm also guilty as charged because not really, like I wasn't really considering him as a sort of an important figure until I started looking into the career of Alan Prost, and and then I discovered Carlos Reutemann because he was kind of a very iconic figure in 1980s and. Yeah, very cool, remarkable driver. Very
Yeah.
good-looking guy too. And as you will see later, that also played played the role in his later career after Formula One.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of I guess a few drivers who actually made a very successful career outside Formula One in a completely different field, and we don't have many of those, right? So I just was trying to
Mhm.
remember before this episode who else made a successful career. So obviously Patrick and I had a special episode about Jody Scheckter, who became this biodynamic farming expert
Yeah.
after he finished his career. Niki Lauda, right, had a very
Yeah.
successful airline. Who else? Johnny Dumfries, who became a Marquis of Bute, he was, right? Managed a huge estate after he retired. And, oh, who was this guy who was racing for Red Bull? Jaime Algesuari, right? Who was a DJ, very successful DJ. But like there
Really?
are very few, like probably we need to actually have a special about like who retired and had a successful career outside Formula One. But Carlos Reutemann, not to spoil without spoilers, he had a
Yeah.
very successful career outside Formula One too.
Exactly. I think it will be a quite short episode if we speak about the drivers who had a successful career outside
I think we
Formula
can
One or
find
anything
quite
in
a
general.
few. I think we
Yeah.
will find. I mean, I could probably remember 4 or 5.
Okay,
Um,
then enough. Yeah.
Look, there was also this Thierry Boutsen, right? Who a Belgian guy
Yeah.
who
Yeah, Thierry
actually
Boutzen.
he had this company that produced planes, the jet, like small jet planes. I don't know what they're called, but like yeah, I
Yeah.
think we can find quite a few.
Yeah. We have to investigate.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Carlos Reutemann, who
Yep.
obviously deserves our full attention.
Yeah. And later we will come also why we call him the Enigma, which is not our
Okay,
invitation.
cool. Yeah, I have to say that I don't know. Patrick knows why he's the enigma. And yeah, he raced for like a really cool number of like 4 different teams.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah.
So full name is Carlos Alberto, also called Lole Reutemann. And he
Yeah,
was
and there is a spoiler on screen that he became a politician afterwards.
right, but you already mentioned it anyway.
Yeah, who became a politician, yeah. But
Yeah, quite interesting, as it says, for the Justicast party. So practically he started relatively on the left and then went a little bit more into the conservative part, but we will analyze this later on in this episode, as politics in Argentina, as in many other countries in the world, are quite complicated.
Yeah, and I have to say also in this intro that he, I think, came 1 point short, right, of being a champion. So he almost did it, but never actually became a champion. But I think he was only 1 point short. And he yeah, so again, and this is again one of the reasons why he's underappreciated in Formula One, I think, because he never actually won the championship. But nevertheless, extremely talented driver. And he also race in Le Mans afterwards or not?
I think not, if I'm correct.
Yeah, but so I thought he was, but maybe I'm not correct. Anyway. I'll look it up while Patrick is talking. Let me just, I for some reason I thought he did, but
yeah, I think not, but you can maybe find something, and maybe some of our viewers can also comment it under the YouTube video. Important, well, if not important, but interesting, in opposite to Fancho. For example, he's not from the capital, Buenos Aires, but right from the north, quite far away from Buenos Aires, from Santa Fe, which, as it's typical for Latin America, capital areas are very different developed than other states. I had the opportunity to be in Argentina, visiting Buenos Aires, also Cordoba, but I never made it up to Santa Fe, which is a pity because, as I've heard, it should be a quite nice region.
Yeah, so I looked it up. He was also racing in World Rally Championship. And why that was significant was because he was, for many years, he was the only driver who scored points in both Formula One and World Rally Championship before Kimi Raikkonen went in 2010 and participated in Jordan Rally. But I mean, he came third in Rally Argentina in 1980 and 1985. So yeah, he was active in other motorsport, rally motorsport after. During his career in Formula One in 1980 and after he retired, he was also doing this World Rally Championship.
Good. But with this, let's jump a little bit into his early life. As you may already think, hearing regarding his name, he's a descendant from a Swiss-German grandfather. If you know Argentina a little bit, you know it's a country of immigration. A lot of people with German roots went there over the centuries. Also, a lot of Italian immigration and practically from all other parts of the world. So he has this Swiss-German grandfather, and from him he got the nice German name Reutemann. On the other hand, Italian mother. So again, practically the two biggest immigration group, German, Swiss, and Italians, and he was a mixture of them all. And
I just want to say that the German name probably is good as any other. Just say like good name. I mean, like we are obviously, not biased towards any any name. But he's also a little bit Italian, right? Because his mom was
Yeah,
Italian.
his mother was Italian. With good German, I meant a typical German name.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
to clarify, I meant a very typical, very German sounding name, as Mann means man. Honestly,
yeah, but
Reutemann,
you know how sometimes people interpret what we say here, Patrick, like, oh, Joe.
yeah, okay,
So,
clarify in German language, if you say this, you would mean typical.
typical,
So I
yeah.
wanted to say typical German name,
Yeah,
Reutemann.
of course. I was just trying to make a joke, but
Yeah,
not very
but
successfully.
good to clarify. But good to clarify it.
Yeah, and so he, like I said, was a little bit Italian too because his mom was from Italy. So he was kind of very multinational, really, right? Considering
Yeah,
kind of the
but this is a
Swiss,
typical,
German.
but this is the typical Argentina. That I mean, if you're traveling, especially to Buenos Aires, you see architecture very much inspired by France, culture pretty much, not pretty much, quite near, Italy. And on the other hand, if you're traveling a little bit in the Sierras outside the big city, you even find typical one German little towns. So this mixture is quite typical for Argentina. So he's practically the average Argentinian with this mixture.
All right. And so he started his career in Formula 2, right? And was successfully racing for Brabham at that time. Yeah. And I think quite quickly made his way into Formula 1.
Exactly, and he was very successful in Formula 2. That's why he I have been invited to start for Brabham. He had very good results, beating Jochen Rindt, for example. As at the end of the 70s, it was still quite common that even Formula 1 stars participated in Formula 2 events to get some additional money, and he beat Jochen Rindt, for example. So he was quite successful in comparison to Ronnie Peterson. So he was really doing good. If you see us on Spotify or on YouTube, before he started practically with touring cars, as I said, Argentina has very strong relations with Italy, culturally, economically. For this, we have also Fiat factories inside the country. So no surprise that he started racing with a Fiat in 1950, as you see on the photo, which is not his car, but in general to show the car.
Yeah, so and obviously since the Brabham team was led by Bernie Eccleston, about whom we will talk a lot. We already talked a little bit, but we will have also special. I'm really looking forward to that special, I have to say. Because you will probably see so many models, like top models, but apart from drivers and anyways
this I was thinking more for the episode about Flavio Briatore, but
Flavio Briatore will be that's like a cherry on top with everything. But Bernie Eccleston as well. But anyway, he was, as Bernie Eccleston is so kind of a very good strategist, and he actually signed Carlos Reutemann, and we have to give him credit for that. And he was signed in 72, right? 1972.
Right, in 72, and he did a very good start, very successful. He was driving besides Graham Hill, two-time champions. Well, but honestly, maybe not anymore on his personal height, as he was already coming slowly into retirement age, but nevertheless, two-time champion and somebody you really have to beat.
Yeah, and obviously it was not by that time a superior car,
Yes.
Brabham, but he managed to obviously not only survive Graham Hill in Formula One, but also score many points in Formula One, so which was important.
And yes, and not directly a record, but very outstanding result in his first qualifying pole position, something which was only done by Mario Andretti before. And if I'm correct, Andretti had much more racing experience before he entered Formula One, because Andretti entered relatively late in his career. So we're now 1973, and we see, for example, the 74 car, very beautiful cars Brabham had from 1973, 74, 75, great radical wedge designs done by the famous designer Gordon Murray, who stayed a long time in the Brabham team, and here we saw the first positive results. Well, not the first, but he confirmed his talent with positive results with the Brabham team.
Yeah, that's right. And he came sixth, but was very, again, very, I guess, successful learning experience for him in 1973-74 that really impacted his further career.
Yeah. Yes, and especially in 74, he had on the one hand outstanding results, but on the other hand, many races without such results, which also had been related to the reliability of Brabham, which traditionally was a problem for the team over all the years. But on the other hand, also, and that's why Carlos Reutemann is called the Enigma. Some weekends he was the best of the best, and other weekends he was driving quite average. So I think even if he always looked from the outside very cool, his results strongly depended how good he felt inside the cockpit.
Okay, yeah. Well, I didn't know that, but yeah, it's good to have this perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit this is not my personal conclusion, but as I said it before me. So here we have the 75 Brabham BT44B. I mean, for many, one of the most beautiful Formula One cars of all the time. Not only the clear design, also in combination with the Martini livery.
And then he was also the replacement for Niki Lauda in Ferrari when he negotiated sort of to be in Ferrari, but then Niki Lauda obviously. So he was the temporary replacement when Niki Lauda had his this horrific accident in 1976, and then Niki Lauda obviously returned very quickly, but nevertheless, I don't think many people get a chance to drive for Ferrari, and Carlos Reutemann had that chance.
Yeah, and it was quite good. And we will, at the end, we will come back a little bit to his relation with Niki Lauda, which was not the best, and we will analyze a little bit why this was the case.
Yeah, that's true. But nevertheless, when he was replacing Niki Lauda, he still scored points for Ferrari because he came second, third in Monza. I do apologize. He still was on podium in Monza, and it was a very, decent performance for someone who just jumped into the, driving seat and drove for a different driver, basically replacing a different driver.
That's right. So, I mean, this is practically what you already have been speaking about, the 1977 season where we had the infamous fire accident at the Nürburgring by Niki Lauda. Enzo Ferrari had to find a replacement, and due to the rumor, Carlos Reutemann was not really on the top of the list. Number one on Enzo's list had been Emerson Fittipaldi, who at that time had been suffering or driving for, or however you want to say, for the Fittipaldi team, the all-Brazilian team, led also by
Not a
his
good
brother.
decision. Not a good decision.
Right. Right, not a good decision, but on the other hand, you may say a fascinating challenge to build up an all-national Brazilian team, similar as we saw from Italy
But
with
not with your
Ferrari.
relatives.
Okay.
Again, I agree. But not
Yes.
when you go in business with your relatives, that normally doesn't end well. So
Yeah, I would completely agree to this point. This was maybe the weak point of the concept having a family business here, which I know from business is often not the best idea. So, and maybe also Enzo Ferrari saw this and thought we have to get Emerson out of this problem. But nevertheless, Emerson, very patriotic Brazilian, so he still said, I want to continue, and maybe it was his first year with the Fittipaldi team, so he said, I'm staying. This is my duty to my Brazilian sponsors, to my Brazilian fans. I am staying, so he declined. Due to the rumor, number two have been the Swedish guy. Sorry. Ronnie Peterson, Ronnie Peterson, but
Ronnie
Niki Lauda
Peterson,
strongly declined against him. And then next one was Carlos Reutemann, who finally agreed. And also Niki Lauda couldn't decline a second time a driver, so Carlos Reutemann it was.
Yeah, and like Patrick said, that didn't work very well, that whole relationship, Lauda-Reutemann, because, they didn't really... Well, I think it's just has to do that these are completely different people.
Yes.
And Niki Lauda is this kind of this calculating, risk sort of assessing, data-based guy. Whereas, like Patrick said, Carlos Reutemann was more of a instinctive driver, so it never works well with this type of diversity. But at the same time, for the team, it's probably good because you have two completely different styles, and it's a good challenge for the constructors to work with the computer and and the opposite.
A computer and an enigma, two things which normally not work together.
Yes, exactly. But anything can happen in Ferrari, as we all know.
But also, we want to be clear, they not have been biggest friends, but it was also no toxic relationship.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we need to make a footnote that a lot of the times the conflicts are exaggerated. I mean, this was one of those things because, I mean, again, Niki Lauda was very professional, and so was Carlos Reutemann. So they had very professional relationships. They were not friends, but they had good professional, healthy professional relationship.
That's correct. So here we see the 1978 Cardi 312 T3, which I can show you also here in the camera. Very beautiful car. As you can see here, from all three-dimensional angles. And in this year, after 78, Niki Lauda, after his fast return, it destroyed a little bit his relation with Enzo Ferrari, who thought Lauda would have returned too fast. And that's why Niki Lauda decided, also based on the financial offer, to join the Brabham team. Bernie Ecclestone, yes?
Yeah, I
Sorry,
just want to say, and Reutemann was racing with Gilles Villeneuve as a senior. So he became the senior, and Gilles Villeneuve was the junior.
Exactly. I just wanted to finish. Bernie Ecclestone, a great manager, especially with identifying financial sources. He offered Niki Lauda a quite attractive salary, which was, I think, 100% paid by the engine provider Alfa Romeo. So, great deal for Bernie Ecclestone. But again, back to Ferrari, you're right, Carlos Reutemann now being the number one driver, which he did quite good if you consider that the Ferrari was not that dominating as in the years before.
Yeah, and he came third in the season, was a very good result considering that the car wasn't there in a sense. And
Yeah.
was very good run for him that year.
Yeah. The problem was Colin Chapman, who did this great
Well, it was not a
aerodynamic-
problem.
Yeah.
It was a good competitive year for Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, the problem for Carlos Reutemann.
Yeah, problem for Ferrari, I agree.
Yeah. Because Colin Chapman introduced the ground effect cars, something which all other teams later copied until it was forbidden, I think after 82 or after 81. But practically 78, the ground effect car, which the Lotus ground effect car, because it was the only ground effect car that year, really dominated the whole year. So no chance for Carlos Reutemann to equal the results by Niki Lauda. So no surprise that he took the opportunity to switch to Lotus, but maybe a little bit the problem of Reutemann had been that he was at the right teams, but not at the right time. Practically 1 year late to win the championship, you might say.
Yes, that's it. And I think it's just he was trying kind of to chase this best team, and it often backfired, and definitely backfired when he moved from Ferrari to Lotus.
Right, because quite ironically, 79 we had again a Ferrari champion with Jolly Scheckter, so maybe staying at Ferrari would have been
a better choice.
Option. Yeah.
Yes,
I'm not completely sure if he had the opportunity, but I think it was his decision to leave Ferrari. Lotus was a quite short stop for him, and in 1980 he joined the Williams team, which gave him again a competitive car with the FW07, as we see it here on the photo. Nevertheless, his relation with Alan Jones in the first year was quite okay, but later would become quite toxic.
Yeah, and it obviously had to do with the tensions between UK and Argentina, which then we had sort of firing into this Falklands conflict. But I mean, at the beginning of the 80s, it was already quite a kind of brewing problem. And, being in a very, very British team with Frank Williams and... it definitely doesn't help, have to say. But but I mean, he spent quite a few good seasons in Williams.
Yeah, that's why the problem. Said 1980 was quite good, the relation, but in 81, quite in the beginning of the season, Reutemann disobeyed team orders and refused to refuse Alan Jones to win the 81 Brazilian Grand Prix. For whatever reason, he did so, something which Alan Jones never forgave him, and due to this, Jones was not very supportive in the 81 season because, and you see here some data. Carlos Reutemann in orange was practically leading most of the years. Also, thanks to the disobedience of the team order in the second race in Brazil, where Alan Jones still was as the leader. But after this, Reutemann developed as the stronger driver, but Alan Jones, you may say, was not really supporting him as the number 2. And we discussed it in our episode about 81, maybe also a problem of the Williams management, as they've been maybe too sure that they would win the championship as with the driver and with the manufacturer. So they not gave him orders inside the team. And due to this, on the last race, Nelson Piquet became the champion for the 1981 season.
Yeah, and this is what I meant when he kind of came 1 point short of becoming a champion. And it again shows you that when there are sort of this team tensions, actually backfires quite a lot, because if you look at the whole season, Carlos Reutemann was dominating the season until pretty much the last 4 races when Nelson Piquet kind of emerged as a competitor.
Yep. And here we see also a little bit the changing results of Carlos Reutemann, something which we mentioned in the beginning. Sometimes he was winning, sometimes just on the 5th or 6th position. But in general, it should have been enough to win the championship if maybe Williams would have managed it a little bit better, as they did, for example, in years before.
Yeah, that's right. But again, it's very difficult. I guess you have to factor the political situation, and with Argentinian background being in a British team, I'm not saying that there was discrimination, because obviously, he was definitely, he could have won the championship, but I think sort of just the differences, these differences in political scene, they have backfired also internally.
Yeah, and not only from the Williams side, also I think Reutemann distanced himself a little bit.
Yeah, of course,
from
on both
team.
sides.
Yeah, right. Important from both sides. So practically after 81, he decided to retire, but still could get motivated to return to the Williams cockpit, but only for 2 races. After finishing, because after the Brazilian race, the second race in the season, he said, "I'm leaving." This in times of war between Argentina and UK, which of course was a big pressure inside the team. Williams, very British team, British Ford engine, and
sponsorships,
very Argentinian.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine also, of course, very difficult for him to present himself in his home country for his fans, as they have been pretty much supporting the military actions against the related to Falkland Islands, or Malvinas, as you call them in Spanish.
That's right.
On the other hand, as others may say too, he was already thinking of starting a political career. That's why he had to terminate his racing career, because it would have been affected him quite negative on the image if he would have been successful for a British team. if he wants to go into politics later.
Yeah, I mean, his kind of main success in politics kind of came in, I think, 1991. But so we'll talk about it when we get the legacy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that, again, this is kind of my personal speculative opinion, but I think that, again, if you look at his interviews, I think this whole Falkland War really affected him personally, and I think the fact that he went into politics also. So one of the reasons was the fact that there was this conflict.
Exactly, and yeah, and I mean, to be honest, the topic is still very relevant in Argentina today, as most. I mean, honestly, I've not checked the latest surveys, but I think relevant. Maybe the big part of Argentinian society considers that the Malvinas, as they call it, or the Falkland Islands, as they call it in the UK, are part of Argentina due to their geographic proximity to Argentina. So this is still not an important topic in day by day, but it's still a relevant topic in Argentina, where a relevant part of society considers that it has to be an Argentinian, a part of Argentina instead of UK.
Right. So yeah, I mean so obviously, like I said before, he did a little bit of, World Rally Championship, and for example, 1985 was quite successful in it. But yeah, so I think the thoughts about political career kind of started with this conflict that affected not only his life, but life of people in Argentina pretty badly, and he was really couldn't stand by, on the sidewalk of this whole thing, and felt that he really needed to get involved. And that kind of, like what Patrick was saying, like his sort of instinctive nature is really sort of, I think, is very coincidental here, because he's kind of, it was an important problem, and instinctively, like, you want to help, right? And this is what we see here too.
Yeah,
very consistent.
And what we mentioned, Reutemann was at the right places, but sometimes not at the right time. Maybe you saw our episode about 1982. Due to the different bizarre, also tragic accidents that season, the other Williams driver, Keke Rosberg, won the championship. So we may speculate, and honestly, it's pure speculation. Carlos Reutemann maybe had been the stronger driver at Williams in 1982 in comparison to Keke Rosberg. So maybe if he would have stayed, maybe he would have become champion. Maybe not, just speculation.
Yes, that's right. So we'll never know, but
no, of course we never know. But I mean, these speculation are, of course, something which makes Formula One also a fascinating topic for the fans.
Yeah, I think we've kind of already touched on the conflict, exactly. And you guys can, I mean, we encourage you to just read about it. And I guess we can move to the quotes before we discuss the legacy of his political career. Technology. Yeah, I forgot completely.
Yeah, I'm just making a short stop to see 10 years, quite a long, successful career. Luckily, in opposite to others, he survived Formula One. He spent a long time with Brabham before switching for practically 3 years to Ferrari. Short stop at Lotus, and then again a little bit more than 2 years for Williams. I mean, just see the name of the teams, all the iconic teams, especially if you like the 1970s, 1980s. We have Brabham, we have Ferrari, we have Lotus, and we have Williams.
Yeah, and I think this long stay in Brabham was the reason why he kind of became more opportunistic later, because he waited a long time in Brabham and wasn't getting anywhere. And really, I think that's why he kind of was considering these moves, quick moves.
I thought you wanted to say that you learned politics from Bernie Ecclestone.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I think it's just he became just more of an opportunist at that point, and
Yeah. Right, but now the quotes. Let's
quotes. Yeah.
start. When I look back and recall that as a kid I had to go to school on horseback and I went all the way from there to being an F1 driver, it is a pleasure that nobody can take away. Something, by the way, here on the left, a photo from Santa Fe, from his hometown. And really, back at his age, yes, there still had been used horses in parts of Argentina. And of course, Argentina itself, you have the gaucho culture, especially in the north. So horses is playing a big role in Argentinian culture, and had been used by Reutemann as he went to school.
Yeah, so then the second quote that we have, if you're watching us in the video format on YouTube or Spotify, is about the enigmatic nature of Carlos Reutemann. And by Patrick Head, yeah. Patrick Head is, again, also very iconic figure in Formula One.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, it was not my invention, but from another Patrick Head. Carlos is often referred to as enigmatic, probably an appropriate adjective. Sometimes we had clear sight of his brilliance, his speed, but overall the results did not fit with his potential. And I might like to add maybe an immaculate also because he was not, at least as I perceived him, not a very outgoing person, very introvertive. So I think difficult from the outside to read, which maybe had been an advantage becoming a politician.
Yeah, and some drivers are just not very lucky. I mean, and he seems to be definitely that, because he was in the third place like 3 times. He was 1 second and just never got the first position. And we will talk when we talk later about some other drivers. I will tell you stories about, for example, McLaren drivers who, like, there was always something wrong with the car and always something different that was wrong with the car. With some of them, and definitely, I mean that is also, we had an episode about superstitions, but definitely there is an element of luck in all of this. And remember when we talked about Fangio, it was like all about sort of how he chose very well, right, the teams. So he had this sort of hunch about what will be the next hot team, or the next hot make, rather. So there were not so much professional teams at the time, but he knew what would be the next hot make of the car. But just Carlos Reutemann was not that lucky here, and he made decisions that were not great for his career. But on the other hand, compared to some of the drivers who scored like 1 point or no points at all, he was very, very successful, of course.
Yeah, and who was it? Who said, was it? No, it was not John Surtees. It was Jackie X who said, I was very lucky. I've been second, but I survived. And if we see how many fatal accidents we had, this is, of course, also a luck for a professional driver in Formula One.
Yeah, true. He had a very long career in Formula One, survived, and was
and I think he
top.
didn't have any strong accidents.
Yeah, he was at the top as well.
Yes. Yeah. And now a quote by Gordon Murray, the chief designer of Brabham. If everything was right on the day, he would be right there, a great racing driver. But then for the next couple of races, he would seem to get preoccupied with some thoughts that things weren't going to go his way and he'd go off the boil. Suddenly he'd look glum and say, no way today, no way for the championship. And that was the end of it. He kept his reasoning in himself, what I said, very introverted, but then on his day he'd click and feel good and nobody could beat him.
Yeah, and that kind of sort of comes back to this whole discussion that we had before about mental health, right? Maybe with the right help, like I think these days the drivers have some help from the team, and they can work with all sorts of people who can help with their sort of self-esteem issues and all that. But back in the day, this type of solutions and help was like not available and probably stigmatized as well. So who knows? Maybe if he had a chance to work with somebody on these things, then he could have been a champion. But like I said, it's he had a great career. Let's face it. He had a great career.
Yes, and I mean, this is a big difference in end 70s, beginning of 80s, in opposite today, where each driver has personal assistants, personal fitness trainer, maybe also personal psychological support to make them also mentally stronger. All of this we didn't had back in the beginning of the 1980s.
That's right.
Okay, next quote. Reutemann is a tormented and tormenting driver. He's capable of resolving difficult situations, also making up for occasional mechanical deficiencies, but unstable to wasting results that can be acquired at the outset due to congenital emotionality. I've never put up with this definition from Mr. Ferrari. So first we see nearly a double quote, an analysis of Enzo Ferrari. Unfortunately, I forgot to include from whom is this quote, maybe also from Gordon Murray, or maybe Patrick Head, because Williams was after Ferrari. So I would assume it coming from somebody from the Williams team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, kind of caught in this emotional component.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have quite a few drivers still in Formula One who are driving on instinct, more or less, and maybe this is, I don't think that's like a huge inhibiting factor. But maybe if you could work through this, like with someone, maybe it would be easier. It's just probably, like I said, like it not, this type of help was not available, and it's it is a difficult thing. You're racing and you don't know whether you're gonna be alive at the end of the race. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah.
So that affects you.
Right.
That affects you.
That's right. That's right.
But I mean, emotionality actually for a politician is a good, probably a good thing, because that makes you more, I guess, more charismatic in the end, because you're kind of more expressing more for normal emotions. But before we go to political career, let's stop by
exactly.
Rush.
Before we come to this. Right. I mean, we discussed many characters which have been featured inside Rush. Carlos Reutemann was mentioned at the movie, and especially Niki Lauda speaking about Reutemann was mentioned, even if Carlos Reutemann itself was not personalized inside the movie. Here we discussed in various episodes where the movie was correct, were not related to the sayings about Niki Lauda. It was pretty correct. because the quote here is directly from Niki Lauda's own book from 1986 to Hell and Back, where he said, my first priority was to put Reutemann in his place and secure the #1 spot at Ferrari. By the third race of the season, this had been more or less accomplished when I was able to concentrate all my effort on pursuing for technical progress. So here is speaking about the 77 season, where in the first races, Carlos Reutemann was faster, having better results than Lauda, but then slowly Niki Lauda could turn out the situation and come out again as the #1 driver.
Yeah, and that's
And
because,
also,
because the Niki Lauda is such kind of just a meticulously sort of data-driven person.
Mike.
Whereas, Carlos Reutemann would be more chaotic and more of an instinctive driver. So obviously, I guess like when you use analytics, that pays off with time. Like you can't just do it on a whim.
Yeah. And also, based on the rumors, Enzo Ferrari should have given the #1 position for 1977 to Carlos Reutemann, with the idea that Niki Lauda wouldn't recover completely from his accident, and he was seeing maybe Lauda more in a management position inside Ferrari in the long term. So it seems that he wanted that he has given Reutemann practically the #1. Which Niki Lauda, as we know, not accepted. But finally, let's come to his political career.
Yeah, and that's kind of sort of the legacy-related points. It's just that, he was governor of Santa Fe, where he lived.
Yeah.
So he lived in Santa Fe, and he was a governor not once but twice. So from 1991 to 1995, and then 1999 to 2003. So like basically, like it's a big span of his life spent in politics, and he was a very, very successful politician.
Yes, and especially in quite troubling time. Well, first, he started in 1991 to 1995. But due to Argentinian law, you cannot get re-elected directly. For this, he had to wait 4 years, and then won the governorship again in 1999 to 2003. And so he was not, let's say, a VIP famous, using his fame, getting elected once, as we see, unfortunately, sometimes here in Latin America, where former football players, for example, get elected to be governor, like in Mexico. But we really did a very good job. That's why he got re-elected again. And quite interesting, he started, well, he was part of the Justiziepartei, or also known as Peronism, so relatively left, like Perón, his wife Evita. We discussed it a little bit, I think, as we spoke about Fancho, so relatively left, but nevertheless in politically hard times for Argentina, like end of 90s, beginning of 2000, where Argentina was suffering of strong economic problems. He kept a quite conservative fiscal policy, so doing a policy, a style au contraire to the government in Buenos Aires, depending at which time it was. And due to this, could keep Santa Fe, his state, out of the bigger troubles, suffering the rest of the country. And that's why he was seen quite positively as a governor.
Yeah, I mean, he also, as far as I remember, he froze salaries and
Yes.
pensions, guaranteed pensions in the economic downturn, and that always has a very strong union support. So yeah, I think very sort of, again, as Patrick said, very conservative and yet very sort of people-oriented policy. And I guess it would be cool, like, if you guys are from Argentina, tell us to what extent this public, because always I think there is some sort of skewed view from outside at politicians. So, for example, many people outside UK think that Margaret Thatcher was a great politician, but like, when you ask people inside, you find out that a lot of people are not happy. So if you are from Argentina, or if you know kind of firsthand what was happening, if you could maybe leave us a comment underneath this video, that'd be really great. Like, I would be really curious to hear about Carlos Reutemann's political career. That'd be great.
Exactly. That's I think is true for each local politician. As many times you get perceived much more positively outside the country than inside the country.
Yeah, and that's again, like, he refused to run for presidency, and I think that also has to do with this emotional component, because he is very sort of he doubts himself, or he was doubting himself rather, and I think, yeah, this is again the emotional component when you're thinking, okay, well, my limit is probably being the governor of Santa Fe, like, and I'm not really ready to be a president.
Yeah, or maybe also because he was because of being more introverted, a little bit more intellectual. This has the tendency that you doubt yourself a little bit more than somebody who's maybe a little bit less intellectual. But again, beginning of 2000 was very struggling years for Argentina. If I'm not far off from the dates, we had a number of different presidents at that time. Some of them being in this position for less than 1 year. So it would have been also a risk for him to take to candidate for the presidency. Nevertheless, he stayed active inside the Senate practically until his death, like a little bit more than 1 year ago. And again, he started in the left, but at the end, he supported Mauricio Macri, who was the last conservative president in Argentina before it went back to the left-wing government, which we have up to today. So he quite changed his political line.
Yeah.
And this just to finish, not meant as a critic. I mean, it's positive that you can learn a little bit, seeing that one politic is not working, and then change your ideas, change the way you're working, independent if you switch from conservative to progressive, or from progressive to conservative, so that nobody feels now here bad.
Yeah, and he died at the age of 79. So again, had a very good run in politics and had a good life, and was very again, if you get it, well, I understand that not many of you are probably fans of Carlos Reutemann to that effect to watch his funeral, but also kind of was a lot of press, and a lot of people said very good things, which kind of gives us some confidence that he was efficient at his job as a politician.
Yeah. And that's
All right.
all
On that
from me.
note, probably not very happy note, but nevertheless, thank you so much for being with us today. Again, we are in video format on YouTube and Spotify. We are in podcast format on many other platforms. And thank you for being with us. And we hope that you learned something new today. And as always, let us know if we missed anything, or again, if you are from Argentina and you can tell us more about Carlos Reutemann's career after Formula One, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.